There will come a moment in your life when everything gets quiet. The noise of others disappears. The applause fades. The distractions dim. And what remains is the echo of your own choices. It is in that silence that you realize something most people spend their lives running from. The person who failed you the most wasn't your parents, wasn't your friends, wasn't society, wasn't the system. It was you. You let you down. Not because you are weak, not because you are worthless, but because you didn't know how powerful you truly were, because you underestimated the weight of your own decisions, because you told yourself stories that made quitting acceptable and mediocrity feel safe, because your own mind, the most advanced system known to man, turned into your prison instead of your power. This isn't a speech about guilt. This is about responsibility, because the most terrifying and liberating truth you will ever face is that you are responsible for your life. That you may not control every storm that comes, but you do control whether you let it drown you or teach you how to swim. And when you accept that truth, truly accept it, the entire world changes. You see, psychologists like Albert Ellis and Aaron T. Beck revealed through cognitive behavioral therapy that our thoughts shape our reality, not our circumstances, not our enemies, not even our past. It is the meaning we attach to what happens to us that determines how we live. Viktor Frankl, who survived the concentration camps, wrote that between stimulus and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose. That space is where destiny is formed. And most people, they run from that space. They numb it. They distract it. They pretend it doesn't exist. But you're here now, which means some part of you is ready to stop running. You let you down every time you said, I'll start tomorrow and didn't. Every time you believed the voice that told you you're not good enough. Every time you knew what you needed to do and still didn't do it. Not because you're broken, but because you made an unconscious agreement with comfort. You negotiated your potential for the safety of routine, and your nervous system loved you for it because it is hardwired to avoid pain. But the truth is, growth lives in pain. The science proves it. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire, is activated through challenge, through failure, through repeated discomfort. The only way to become the version of yourself you are meant to be is to walk directly into the fire you keep avoiding. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. That means you are not a victim of fate. You are a victim of your own avoidance, your own refusal to face the truth that you procrastinate, not because you're lazy, but because deep down you fear what it would mean if you actually gave it everything you had and still failed. So you have tried, you self-sabotage, you play small and then blame the world when you don't succeed. But the only person who can free you from that pattern is you. The brain doesn't care about your dreams. It cares about survival. It will lie to you to keep you safe. That's why you must stop listening to how you feel and start listening to what you want to become. The future version of you, the one you admire, the one you fantasize about, doesn't just exist. It is sculpted in the dark, in the moments when you choose to rise, even when no one's watching, in the moments you choose truth over excuses, action over comfort, courage over fear. And let me be clear. This is not about hustle. This is not about toxic positivity. This is not about pretending life is easy or that you're supposed to have it all figured out. This is about looking in the mirror and finally being honest. Honest about the fact that you've been avoiding the real work. Not your past, not your parents, not some perfect moment, just you. Psychologist Nathaniel Branden in the 6 Pillars of Self-Esteem wrote that no one is coming is the most empowering realization we can have. It's the moment you become the adult of your own soul. It's the point where excuses end and transformation begins. People often ask, but what about trauma? What about things that really weren't my fault? The answer is this. Yes, many things happen to us that we didn't choose, but healing is still our responsibility. Because no one else can process our emotions. No one else can change our beliefs. No one else can take the step we're too afraid to take. Radical responsibility is not cruel. It is compassionate. It's saying to yourself, I believe in me enough to stop waiting. I trust myself enough to take charge. It's refusing to let your past write your future. It's the psychological backbone of lasting change. It is the moment you move from being a passenger in your life to the driver. You can't always control the external. The world is chaotic, but you can always take radical responsibility for how you think, feel, speak, act, react, and rebuild. That is how power returns to you. 2. Identity rewiring is the science and art of reshaping the core story you believe about who you are. Because your identity isn't just who you think you are, it's who your brain has been trained to expect you to be. It's the invisible script running your life. And here's the truth most people never hear. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. This is backed by neuroscience, cognitive psychology, and behavioral theory. From James Clear's work in Atomic Habits to Dr. Bruce Lipton's research in the biology of belief, the evidence is overwhelming. Your beliefs about yourself shape your behavior, not the other way around. If you see yourself as someone who always fails, your brain will subconsciously make sure you act in ways that reinforce that story. This is called confirmation bias. You will ignore successes, focus on failures, and sabotage anything that contradicts your self-image. The brain seeks consistency, not truth. So if your identity is I'm lazy, then even when you try to change, your brain will drag you back into behaviors that prove that identity. This is why willpower fails, because your subconscious identity always wins. Identity rewiring means retraining the brain to believe a new story, but not through fake affirmations or empty hype, through evidence-based repetition and embodied action. Here's how it works psychologically. 1. Cognitive dissonance. This is psychological discomfort you feel when your actions don't match your identity, but it can work for you. When you act like the person you want to become, even if it feels fake, your brain starts adjusting your identity to reduce the discomfort. Eventually, the new identity becomes your default. 2. Neuroplasticity. The brain can literally form new neural pathways when you repeatedly act out new behaviors tied to a new identity. The more you behave in alignment with a new self-concept, the stronger that pathway becomes. Your identity changes not by thinking, but by doing. 3. Behavioral consistency. Studies in social psychology show that even small consistent actions, like showing up to the gym for 5 minutes or writing one sentence a day, begin shifting identity because they provide proof to the brain. So I'm the type of person who, 4, language and self-talk. The way you talk to yourself reinforces or rewires identity. Saying I'm trying to quit smoking keeps you stuck in the identity of a smoker. Saying I don't smoke is a declaration of identity. One is effort, the other's embodiment. Identity rewiring is not about pretending, it's about choosing. Choosing who you want to become and backing it up with micro actions, language, and repeated behaviors until that new version of you becomes natural. This is why so many people fail at self-improvement. They set external goals without upgrading the internal identity. They try to act like a disciplined person while still believing they're undisciplined. That's like trying to plant roses in poison soil. It won't last. So what do? You stop asking, what do I want to achieve? And start asking, who do I want to become? Then every action becomes a vote for that identity. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you prove that you are reliable. Every time you show up even a little, you prove that you are consistent. Every time you speak truth instead of comfort, you prove you are strong. And slowly your nervous system adapts. Your inner dialogue changes. Your habits solidify. And the old version of you fades, not through force, but through evolution. Because you are not a fixed personality. You are a pattern of behavior. And patterns can be changed. That's what identity rewiring is, taking control of your mental blueprint and reshaping it into the version of you that's been waiting behind all your excuses. Let me know when you're ready to continue to point 3, thought pattern disruption. 3, if radical responsibility is the foundation and identity rewiring is the reconstruction, then thought pattern disruption is the demolition process. The moment you interrupt the lies and loops that have been running your life from the shadows, you are not your thoughts. But most people live as if they are. Most people never question the inner narrator, the one that says, I'm not good enough, it's too late, this will never work. They'll laugh at me, I always mess up. And because those thoughts feel familiar, they start to feel true. But truth and repetition are not the same thing. From a psychological perspective, this is known as automatic negative thoughts. A term coined by Dr. Daniel Amen. These are deeply ingrained, unconscious thought loops that fire instantly in response to challenges, discomfort, or uncertainty. They're not logical. They're protective. Your brain evolved to scan for danger, and now in a modern world, it overreacts to failure, judgment, and change like they're physical threats. But here's the key. Thoughts are just mental habits, and habits can be broken. The goal of thought pattern disruption is to interrupt these loops in real time and replace them with thoughts that are intentional, constructive, and aligned with who you want to become. This is where cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, comes in. One of the most effective psychological treatments for anxiety, depression, and self-sabotage. CBT teaches that your thoughts influence your feelings influence your actions reinforce your thoughts. So if you don't interrupt the thought, the loop begins. Disruption begins with awareness. This is called metacognition, thinking about your thinking. The moment you observe a negative thought instead of being controlled by it, you create distance. That space is your power. In neuroscience, this taps into the default mode network of the brain, which quiets down when you practice mindfulness and intentional focus. Let's say you think, I'll never be good enough. Disruption looks like 1, tall, label the thought. That's an old loop. 3, challenge it. Where is the evidence? Is this fact or fear? 4, replace it. What would I tell my best friend in this moment? This isn't a positive thinking. This is accurate thinking. This is training your brain to stop lying to you with outdated scripts. Over time, the brain changes, literally. Through Hebbian theory, neurons that fire together, wire together. Every time you disrupt a thought and replace it with a constructive one, you weaken the old neural path and strengthen the new one. This is how you change not just your mind, but your brain. Disruption can also be physical. Movement, breath work, journaling, cold showers, exercise, all these techniques pull you out of your looping mind and back into the present moment where clarity lives. These aren't hacks, they are regulators, tools to calm your nervous system so your thoughts don't hijack your life. One of the most damaging myths is the belief that if a thought feels urgent, it must be obeyed. But that's not true. The urgency is emotion, not truth. Most of your most destructive thoughts are simply echoes from childhood, trauma, or failure. And unless you disrupt them, they become the prison you live in. Thought pattern disruption is reclaiming the steering wheel. It's the moment you say, wait, who told me I'm not enough? Who told me I always fail? Whose voice is that? And why am I still letting it live rent-free in my head? When you master this skill, when you can catch, challenge, and change your thoughts in real time, you become unshakable because life won't stop throwing storms at you, but you'll stop being the one who drowns in your own mind. The voice in your head will either be your worst enemy or your most loyal ally, and you decide which it becomes. That's the power of thought pattern disruption. 4, emotional resilience is the ability to face pain, pressure, setbacks, fear, and failure and not collapse. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's not about pretending you're fine when you're not. It's about staying upright when everything inside you wants to fall apart. And the good news, emotional resilience is not a gift. It is a trainable skill. In psychology, resilience is defined as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, or significant sources of stress. It's the mental and emotional elasticity that lets you bend without breaking. And what the science shows us is that the people who succeed long-term are not the ones who avoid struggle. They are the ones who learn how to hold it without losing themselves. This principle is grounded in research by Dr. Martin Seligman, the founder of positive psychology, who studies soldiers, athletes, trauma survivors, and high performers. What he found is that the most resilient individuals weren't the ones who had easy lives. They were the ones who learned 3 key skills. 1, emotional regulation. 2, cognitive flexibility. 3, optimistic real. Let's break that down through the lens of training. 1, emotional regulation. This is your ability to feel intense emotions, fear, anger, shame, grief, without being ruled by the emotions are real, but they are also data, not directions. Just because you feel fear doesn't mean there's danger. Just because you feel shame doesn't mean you're broken. Resilience begins when you stop reacting impulsively to your feelings and start observing them like signals. The prefrontal cortex, your brain's decision maker, only stays online when you're calm. If you don't train your nervous system to stay grounded under pressure, your emotions will hijack your mind every time things go wrong. This is why tools like deep breathing, body scans, cold exposure, and meditation are not spiritual fluff. They are nervous system conditioning. They train you to feel intensity without panic, discomfort without shutdown, emotion without collapse. 2. Cognitive flexibility. Resilient people are mentally agile. They don't cling to one perspective. They can shift, adapt, and reframe. This is critical because rigid minds break under pressure. Flexible minds bend and bounce back. This is where CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, shows its power again. If you can learn to reframe failure as feedback, pain as growth, rejection as redirection, you stop spiraling, start learning. Resilience is not I always win. It's 7, when I lose, I grow. 3, optimistic realism, not delusion, not toxic positivity, not pretending everything is fine, but the ability to hold on to hope while facing reality. Studies show that resilient individuals have a hopeful outlook, not because they deny problems, but because they believe in their ability to respond to them. That belief, called self-efficacy, is one of the strongest predictors of recovery from hardship, according to Dr. Albert Bandura. So how do you train emotional resilience? By exposing yourself to controlled discomfort and refusing to run from it. Every time you lean into the hard conversation, every time you sit with grief, instead of numbing it, every time you stay focused when your brain screams for escape, you are building emotional muscle. You are expanding your tolerance window. You are becoming a person who can handle more and still stay whole. And perhaps the deepest truth of all, resilience is not about bouncing back. It's about bouncing forward. The old you doesn't return. You become someone newer, stronger, wiser, sharper. You learn that pain didn't come to break you. It came to introduce you to your unshakable self. Because here's the reality. Life will hit you hard. You will be disappointed, betrayed, afraid, tired, lost. And if you don't train your mind and emotions to stand firm in those moments, you will let those moments define you. But when you train for emotional resilience, intentionally, daily, you discover you don't need life to be easy. You just need to be equipped. And when the chaos comes, you won't run, you won't break, you won't collapse, you'll breathe, you'll anchor, you'll rest, and you'll remind yourself, I don't need it to be perfect. I just need to endure. That is emotional resilience. 5. If radical responsibility gives you control, if identity rewiring shifts your self-image, if thought pattern disruption clears the path, if emotional resilience strengthens your core, then relentless repetition is what locks it all in. Because no transformation lasts without repetition. No greatness is achieved without it. No internal rewiring becomes permanent until it is burned into your nervous system through relentless consistency. Let's break it down psychologically, neurologically, and behaviorally. In neuroscience, this is long-term potentiation. The process where neurons that repeatedly fire together form strong, lasting connections. Your habits, your mindset, your emotional responses, all of them are neural pathways. And those pathways are shaped by one thing: repetition. Repetition is not boring. It's not robotic. It's the mechanism of mastery. Everything your brain knows how to do well, from walking to talking to driving to typing, became second nature because you repeated it enough times for it to become part of you. So here's the truth. Change doesn't come from intensity. Change comes from consistency. One breakthrough moment can inspire you, but only repetition will transform you. This is why the people who change their lives don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. They rely on rituals. They rely on non-negotiables because they understand even the most powerful insight means nothing if it isn't acted on again and again until it's real. James Clear writes in Atomic Habits, you do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. And systems are built on repetition. From a psychological standpoint, repetition also creates identity proof. Every time you repeat a behavior, you cast a vote for the type of person you are. You don't become disciplined by saying you are. You become disciplined by repeating acts of discipline. You don't become confident by wishing for it. You become confident by repeatedly showing up despite fear. Over time, those repetitions compound, and eventually, you don't just believe it, you become it. Here's something crucial. Your subconscious mind, the part responsible for 95% of your daily behavior, only learns through repetition. It doesn't care what you intend. It only absorbs what you repeat. This is why affirmations work only when they are tied to action. This is why habits matter more than goals. This is why rituals shape you more than random efforts, because the subconscious learns like a child, not through lectures, but through patterns. Now let's be honest. Repetition is not glamorous. It's not exciting. In fact, it can feel boring. But boredom is the threshold of transformation. You repeat it until it becomes normal. You repeat it until you no longer think about it. You repeat it until your excuses get tired and your habits take over. In the world of elite athletes, world-class performer, and elite military units, repetition is everything. They don't just train until they get it right. They train until they can't get it wrong. They understand that when the pressure hits, you don't rise to the occasion. You fall to the level of your training, and your training is what you repeat. So let this settle deeply. You will not become your best self through occasional motivation. You will not become strong by doing it when you will feel like it. You will not heal, grow, or win by dabbling in effort. You become unbreakable through relentless repetition, by showing up tired, by showing up unmotivated, by showing up even after failure, by repeating your routines, your mindset work, your reflections, your affirmation, your acts of discipline again and again and again and again until your mind accepts it, until your nervous system integrates it, until your identity embodies it. Because in the end, success is not about who's the smartest or who's the strongest. It's about who keeps repeating the process long after everyone else has stopped. It's about who is willing to be relentless. That is the path of transformation. That is the power of relentless repetition. This is not just about motivation. This is not just about mindset. This is not just about success goals or personal development. This is about you confronting the most uncomfortable truth of all. You let you down, and yet you are also the one who can rebuild. Because within the very ruins of your self-sabotage, within the echo of every excuse you've ever made, within the pain of all the moments you broke your own trust, there is still something burning, a spark that cannot be extinguished. And that spark is your power. It's not found in perfection, not found in talent, not found in luck. It's found in your decision to rise, to reclaim, to rewrite everything. The world didn't break you. Your past didn't break you. Your failures didn't break you. What broke was your alignment between who you could be and who you chose to be, between what you dreamed of and what you settled for, between what you believed and what you allowed. But this is the moment you stop watching your life like a movie. This is the moment you stop being a character in your story and become the author. Because no one is coming to fix it for you, and that's not a curse. It's your liberation. You were never meant to live, numb, never meant to live small, never meant to live chasing validation and escaping fear. You were meant to be free, internally anchored, psychologically fortified, resilient in storms, rooted in identity, disciplined in action, and unshakable in your belief that no matter what happened, you can begin again, and you can, because everything you need is already inside you. You've learned that radical responsibility is not blame, it's freedom. It's the moment you take full command of your mind and behavior and declare, if it's gonna change, it starts with me. You've learned that identity rewiring is not fake confidence. It's the process of becoming aligned with your future by slowly killing the lies you were raised to believe about who you are. You've learned that thought pattern disruption is not about pretending to be positive. It's about silencing the old toxic narratives and replacing them with truth that's earned. Not imagine you've learned that emotional resilience is not emotional numbness, it's emotional courage. It's the power to stay calm under fire and keep walking when every cell in your body wants to run. You've learned that relentless to run. You've learned that relentless. Repetition is not boring. It is the only language your brain respects and the only path to lasting change. So now in the silence after the storm, you have a choice. You can go back to the loop, to the lies, to the comfort, to the chaos you've normalized, or you can rise, you can disrupt the entire cycle. You can wake up tomorrow, not with a resolution, but with a ritual, not with motivation. but with a mission to become the version of you that never lets you down again. Because hear this clearly, you will never be perfect, but you can be honest. You will never be fearless, but you can be faithful. You will never be without wounds, but you can be whole. And from this day forward, every decision now is either a vote for the old you or a brick laid for the new one. You won't see results in a week. You won't change your life in a month, but you'll change your direction in a moment, and sometimes whole. That's all it takes to change everything you let you down. But now, you rise now, you rewire now, you rebuild now, you repeat, and the world won't even recognize you when you're done, but you will, and you'll look in the mirror one day and see someone who fought someone who healed someone, who became fire, and you'll whisper, I'm proud of you. I've been waiting for you. Let's go. That's the conclusion, the end of the old chapter, the beginning of the new one, written by you, relentless.